Golf Central proudly presents live from the U.S. Open.
And nice to see clear skies here at America's Heartland early evening. And there is world number one and defending U.S. Open champion Dustin Johnson arriving this afternoon, getting his first look at this golf course. We're expecting 45,000 a day here at Erin Hills. Spectators, volunteers, media, workers. It is a huge undertaking. And when those grandstands are filled late on Sunday, the players in contention will feel the enormity of the moment. And hello again and welcome. Rich Lerner pleased as always to be alongside Brandel Chambly, Frank Nobilo, and David Duval, former world number one. Steve Stricker will join us in just a few moments. David, I'll start with you. What's your sense of Erin Hills?
It seems wonderful. You set foot on property here and it just has that feel of importance, of grandeur, just an immensely vast, beautiful stage. And with the last couple of years, the things that have happened with the U.S. Open, it seems like a very good canvas on which to kind of get back on track, I think. You have to be very careful how you get around this golf course. There's been controversy talking of the rough, of the winds, of the cross breezes, all these kind of things, but that's all part of the U.S. Open is messing with your head as well. And it just seems like if it's not going to be the old kind of traditional winged foot, Oak Hill, high rough, narrow fairways, you couldn't ask for a better canvas to kind of get things going again.
You're right. It's new territory for sure. I mean, to state the obvious, and a new golf course to all except for a handful of players. And over the last 10 or 15 years, a new philosophy just in terms of the way the USGA sets up the golf course. And then given the state of several of the best players in the world, either their game or their health, there are a lot of unknowns going into this week, which seems appropriate because recently the U.S. Open has given us curveballs that would make Clayton Kershaw jealous. You start to look at the last 12 U.S. Opens. 11 of the winners for the first time won the U.S. Open. 10 for the first time won a major championship. This is unprecedented, going all the way back to the beginning of the U.S. Open, all the way back to 1895. So when you start to look at the landscape of the players and try to figure out who might win this, look a little harder at the players just off of the radar, because later on in this show, that's exactly what we're going to do, Frank.
There's no doubt this is a brand new opportunity. And I think, when hearing you guys talk and that, the newness of this place, when I was here just over a week ago, I got a little shout out to Alex and Adam, two of the superintendents, plus Jim Lombardo, the head professional here. And when I talked to the guys that sort of live and breathe this golf course, it just came through, and when you see it, it was such a huge opportunity for Wisconsin, but more importantly, it becomes a huge opportunity, Randall, for some of the players that you refer to. These will be players that are not normally on our radar. Even though we've had rain, this is far from a watered-down U.S. Open. And really, we have a new breed with a new creed. And I think that's what's going to shine this week. This is such a big opportunity. And David, to your point, this is not Shinnecock. This is not Oakland. These are not tight fairways. So we have to look at the new breed of players. This is the way they play the game. Finally, they've got a golf course that actually they can exercise their skills. The young breed can exercise their skills on.
Well, there's going to be a lot of pressure on the players this week trying to chase the U.S. Open down and win, but there's going to be a heck of a lot of pressure on the weatherman here to set up this golf course, because it's set up as such that there's so many different teeing options that you've got to get it right with the winds, or some of the holes will almost become unplayable, even reach into fairways, things of that nature. But I just think that you have an openness to this canvas here, to this beautiful golf course, that's going to allow everybody to play. It's going to award what we talk about a lot, shot making.
And David, to your point, Mike Davis of the USGA told us today, the meteorologist, you need to be on your game because it will dictate setup. And if they set it up one way and the winds come from a different direction, some of the holes could be unreachable, and they'll hear it from the players. And after what's happened the last couple of years, they won a controversy-free, relatively quiet U.S. Open. We want noise at the end, but without all the controversy. All right, Tuesday's storylines. You've seen that knee-high, gnarly, not going to find it rough. Well, it was cut down on several different holes, 4, 12, and 14. The USGA basically saying that after the heavy rains, and really they had a lot of rain this spring, and it grew some 8 inches just the last few weeks, it was actually laying down. You see, they took the push mowers, they went out there, and they've cut it down in certain spots. Now, Dustin Johnson, remember he missed the Masters after the slip at the house where he was staying. A little bit of welcome drama this time as he arrived in Wisconsin after Paulina Gretzky gave birth to their second child. Tatum has a brother, More on that in just a moment. Well, there you see Phil's caddy Bones. He's here walking the course in case his man makes it. Phil needs a weather delay Thursday to really have a shot of getting from daughter Amanda's graduation to his afternoon tee time. But Bones, like any good caddy, doing his due diligence. And Rory met the media today. What's the state of his health and his game after a month away? And like Dustin, this golf course really could play into his hands. And you'll hear from Jordan Spieth on returning to Erin Hills, where he played the U.S. Amateur 6 years ago. Well, there is a whole sort of, we'll call it circle of life theme here this week at the U.S. Open. We're talking about kids graduating and kids being born. With more, let's go down to Todd Lewis. Todd?
Hi there, Rich, and it is very important for Dustin Johnson to prepare for this U.S. Open, especially as the #1 player in the world and the defending champion. But not as important as being there for the arrival of his second child. According to reports, Paulina Gretzky, his fiancée, had a C-section on Monday to deliver the couple's second child. It is a boy, and this new addition will join big brother Tatum in the family. The couple expected to release all the information and pictures very soon on social media. As for Dustin Johnson, well, he left Los Angeles today, arrived here in Wisconsin mid-afternoon, was on the golf course here at Erin Hills at around 3:45. He warmed up and then immediately went to the first tee. He is currently on the golf course playing a practice round. He is expected to play all 18 holes this afternoon and evening. By the way, this is not the first time that Dustin Johnson has seen Erin Hills. He missed the cut at Muirfield Village for the memorial, and on the weekend he flew here to Wisconsin to take a look at this golf course to get further educated. And one thing that he knows, and the 155 other players in this field know, is that you cannot hit it in the rough. The high fescue here that is generally in the perimeters of the holes around this golf course, but it is very thick and very gnarly, and some folks took to Instagram to have a little bit of fun. That was the purpose of this Instagram post by Kevin Na, dropping a few balls in this gnarly thick fescue, and also Lee Westwood's Instagram, Billy Foster, his caddy, coming out of this rough in a very fun kind of Marine Corps kind of way. Well, today, interesting happenings from the United States Golf Association. They did indeed cut some of the rough around this golf course on holes 4, 12, 14, and later this evening, they plan on cutting the rough on the 18th hole. As for the players in the field, well, we caught up with some of them today to talk about how nasty this rough is and why the USGA decided to cut it, their reaction.
The rough's unplayable. You can't be in there. If you get in there, if you're lucky enough to find it, just get it out. And I think they're doing the right thing. Some of the fescue that's right off the fairways is by far the worst stuff. So if you miss it by 30, 40 yards into that stuff, you might catch a lie where you can at least get it out. If you're 2 or 3 yards off the fairway, you probably don't even have a chance to do any more than get it back into the fairway.
I've hit it in the fescue multiple times over the last few days. I've had it to where I needed to hit, gap wedge out about 100 yards into the fairway, and I've also hit a 7-iron on the green out of it. It just depends on where it ends up, what the lie is. It's not unplayable. I don't think the golf course is unfair by any means because of the fescue. We have a wide enough area to hit it, and you need to drive the ball well in order to win a U.S. Open. I think that's a fair thing to say.
I don't think that that you should have the opportunity of losing a golf ball or hurting yourself. I think that's most important. I mean, obviously, if you hit a bad shot, you deserve to be penalized, but you shouldn't ever have to risk an injury just because of, missing the fairway. I'm glad to hear that they're moaning a little bit.
We have 60 yards from left line to right line. Like, you've got 156 of the best players in the world here. If we can't hit it within that avenue, you may as well pack your bags and go home. Like, I don't get... These are the widest fairways we've ever played in a U.S. Open. And even the first and second cut, it's another 10 yards on top of that. I don't know. It's the U.S. Open. It's supposed to be a tough test. And if guys can't put it in play within a 50-yard zone, I don't think they've got much to complain about.
I had a chance to speak to Kevin Na, who posted that original Instagram post about the fescue out here, and he said that a lot of players came up and slapped him on the back and said, thank you very much for instigating the USGA to cut the rough here. But it turns out that that's not why the USGA and the agronomy staff decided to cut the rough. It had nothing to do with player reaction, but everything to do with Mother Nature after an inch and a half of rain fell on this golf course in the last 24 hours.
Well, we've actually been mowing fescue down. I got here last Monday, and we've been working on trimming the fescue virtually every day as we identify different areas that we would like to cut down. With the work that's been done in the last 24 hours, during our superintendent's meeting with Zach Reineking, the director of grounds, yesterday, he indicated with the weather forecast a potential for heavy rain and heavy winds that there were areas of the fescue that he was concerned would blow down and get very matted and tangled together, and indicated that he thought we may want to trim those areas back just because of the difficulty that they would pose in some of the areas.
And just to be clear, this is not a reaction from USGA in regards to some possible complaints about the fescue?
Not at all. We had 1 3/4 inches of rain last night. We had 35 to 40 mile per hour winds, exactly what Zach predicted happened, and we're just executing the plan. And you know, the amount of fescue that we affected today is such a small percentage of what the players are actually going to have to deal with that there's still an awful lot of it out there for them to contend with.
So certain parts of the golf course receiving 1.5 inches to 1 3/4 of an inch of rain on this golf course, as we talked about in the last 24 hours. And rain is in the forecast moving forward throughout the week here at this championship. And according to the USGA, if they get some more rain, they could cut back some more fescue. They're just going to have to wait and see what Mother Nature does to this golf course. Rich?
And we'll have more on that at the local pub with this crew and a bunch of others.
He looks good for 60, really, doesn't he?
Look, in a perfect world, you know, fescue is wispy, right? You'd be able to at least see your golf ball. Still would be penal. This is not a perfect world. They got an awful lot of rain, but I think Frank McElroy hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, I think you're going to hear two different types of rhetoric. You know, one is, no, they're going to do more and more, and the other one is make it as hard as possible for the rest of the field. And I think that's what Rory McIlroy's doing. I know he hasn't played that much coming in, but that's the sort of talk you want. We heard from Adam Scott just over a week ago saying a little bit different. You know, maybe they've got to be careful with the setup, whereas Rory say, bring it on. And because he's used to that, and he's already has one of those trophies in his bag. But guys, you know, the fact that we're getting guys now talking about the golf course, the fescue, how difficult it could be, that makes you feel like it really is a U.S. Open.
I didn't realize how powerful Kevin Na was. So, you know, if he doesn't like his tee time, maybe he could put something creative together and get the powers that be to sort of move it around. It looks like he certainly impacted the decision to go out there and mow it. The decision that is awfully coincidental. I sat in that meeting. I heard the reasons why. They had an unusual wet April and May, lots of steamy, hot days leading into this championship, and then compounded with the rain last night, and the fescue just fell down and it became unplayable. But it looks like, and if it indeed players hit it in there, Kevin Na is going to have some byline in this championship. Will he go on and contend and play well? You know, I hope he does, because he's certainly entertaining to watch. And if he happens to hit it in there at some point this week, it'll be really fun.
Yeah, but look, it's not that bad. Sergio Garcia at the 500-yard 17th hole, he found it for a start.
And got it out.
And he got it out.
Exactly. I think you got to listen to the guys talking about, you know, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Jack Nicklaus years and years ago, just kind of waiting for everybody to beat themselves. You know, Rory, Spieth, they're all talking, some of the players are talking about, this is what it is. There's plenty of room to play. Let's go play. Yes, it's penal off of the golf course if you stray, and I guess there are situations where it could be tremendous crosswinds and could easily get blown across into the high fescue and stuff. But this is meant to be a difficult, stern test. You certainly don't want people getting hurt, and you don't want to hear the complaints. But then again, it's not going to be a U.S. Open if players aren't complaining about something. We always do.
I wonder what a Steve Stricker would say about the rough.
Steve would not complain.
He probably didn't even know there's rough out here.
You think he would complain?
Yeah. We're going to find out.
Still to come, Wisconsin's very own Steve Stricker stops by the set, and what a story that would be if the 50-year-old could win in front of his home fans. Plus, how's Rory feeling? Is he ready to win his second U.S. Open? Also, Bones is on the ground at Erin Hills, but will Phil make it here? And what is that place high on the hill?
It's here because it's the highest point in southeastern Wisconsin, and there's a tradition to build monasteries on the heights.
That and more, live from the U.S. Open.